Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we're going to be finding out what really happened to the Braithwaite treasure that the gang was searching for in Chapter 3. So this is one of the biggest mysteries in the entire game, and it really doesn't even technically get solved until the very end, but it looks like Rockstar might have had an alternate ending to what really happened to this treasure. So before we talk about what happened in Red Dead Redemption 2, let's talk about what's found in Red Dead Redemption, the first game, which, as you know, takes place in 1911, at least when John Marston is alive, which would make it take place roughly about 12 years from when Arthur would be alive, and then 4 years after John takes place in the epilogue. So a user on the Red Dead Mystery subreddit posted an image of them finding something called Rhodes gold. They said they're playing Red Dead Redemption and came across this, and they said maybe it's the Braithwaites gold from Red Dead Redemption 2. So if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about in Red Dead Redemption, John can do a series of treasure hunting activities, treasure maps, similar to what we saw in RDR2. And the first treasure hunt that he can find actually has us going to find the Rhodes gold. So it's actually located to the northeast of Cholla Springs, almost directly north of Armadillo. And basically, it's just like a normal Red Dead Redemption 2 treasure hunt that I'm sure you guys have done over the last basically year or so, where you have to look for various clues on the map or hints in the world, and essentially you just have to find where the treasure is buried or hidden. And in this instance, when John finds it, he ends up getting a gold bar. And that gold bar is the Rhodes gold, as you guys can see there. Well, isn't that interesting? What would the Rhodes gold be called? Remember, this is in Red Dead Redemption 1. Well, there's a theory going around that this Rhodes gold is actually the Braithwaite treasure. As we know, the Braithwaites basically controlled Rhodes, the town, with the Greys. And a lot of people are wondering if this is where the Braithwaite treasure actually was buried. Now that brings up a lot of questions, and for that, we should go back to Red Dead Redemption 2, which again takes place in 1899. Now, before the Braithwaite Manor is actually burned down, you can actually find a sort of family shield inside of the house that you can sell for a little bit of money. Now, I don't necessarily think that that is the treasure itself, but Rockstar have hidden a lot of things inside of this big house and this big mansion. And that's one of those things that you actually might not have known about. You can only get it during a certain part of the game, like where you're allowed in the house, but it's before it ends up getting burned down. So that's the first bit of treasure. The second bit of treasure comes when the house is actually burned down. If you return, you can find a couple of things. On Catherine Braithwaite's burned body, you can actually get her brooch, which again, I don't necessarily think is the treasure, but it is still something valuable and you can sell it. And there's also a lockbox that you can find that would have been underneath the fireplace that does have a gold bar on the inside. And so a lot of people assumed that that right there is the mystery solved, that that is the Braithwaite treasure. However, there's a lot of mysterious things that indicate that that's not necessarily the case. One of those things is Gertrude Braithwaite. This is the outhouse girl that's actually locked up in the back. She says a lot of interesting things that could reveal details on a treasure. Now, I don't know if there's been any information so far, at least any concrete details that have revealed anything, but she is saying some pretty weird stuff. Another thing is a letter that can actually be found on one of the Gray older family members. It's a letter to Mr. Gray from Malcolm Moffat, who is a professor in history at Edinburgh University. This letter was sent on April 3rd, 1895, so about 4 years before our game takes place. It says, "Dear Mr. Gray, thank you for your long and well-researched letter regarding your ancestor and his ostracizing and immigration from Scotland to the colonies in the aftermath of the uprising of 1745. I hate to be the bearer of apparent bad tidings, particularly when communicating with such passionate Scot in exile as you describe yourself, but I'm afraid our records are rather precise. I have made an extensive study of the spy networks of the Duke of Cumberland, as you may be aware. The Duke was an excellent record keeper, and it seems that the relative of whom you speak, Ross Gray, was unquestionably a well-paid informant. He was paid in both cattle and cash and also rewarded in significant land holdings confiscated from his neighbor. That would explain why he did not leave Scotland until 1755, fully 10 years after the revolt. This was, of course, the year when a few Jacobite supporters began reprisals against known informants in the Highlands. I am sorry if this is not the news you were looking for. The Jacobite era was a very complicated time in Scottish history, and certainly my antecedents are divided into rebels and loyalists. Being the progeny of a family loyalist is certainly nothing to be ashamed by. At least I hope not. If you're ever in Edinburgh, I do hope I can show you around the university. Yours sincerely, Malcolm Moffat. So I think this letter is supposed to show that the Gray family is not as pure as Mr. Gray believes, and so he tried to get some research done, and that research revealed that that is not the case. And we also can find out that if you go to Copperhead Landing, which is where Tilly and Jack are supposed to meet the Marstons by the end of the game, there is a lockbox that sort of reveals the love story of the Braithwaites and the Grays. There's a letter to Douglas Gray from Lucille Braithwaite that's almost 100 years old at this point, June 12th, 1806. It says, "My dearest Douglas, the mere act of writing your name weakens me with longing. My exile in Connecticut has endured barely 3 weeks, but it already feels like a lifetime since I saw your wonderful smile. Why should the family in which I was born and a surname that was imposed on me dictate who I can and cannot love? Like you always say, however, there are so many less fortunate than ourselves and subject a far worse partiality and narrow-mindedness. Please take all that gold to the group I told you about. It should provide them with enough funding for another 2 years of operation so they can keep pressure on Congress to abolish the importation of slaves into this country once and for all. Our two families are so blinded by avarice and bitterness that either they will not realize it is missing or they will assume the other has stolen it from them. Then come for me, my love, as we planned, and we will flee somewhere far away, down to South America or across Europe, or we can simply live our lives as Douglas and Lucille, not as Master Gray and Miss Braithwaite. Yours always, Lucille." So we got some details here, and I think this is important, that indeed there was a lot of gold shared between the Grays and the Braithwaites. I think it was more particularly associated with the Braithwaites, and they were actually using it for a good cause. They were trying to get Congress to abolish the importation of slaves into the country. So the Rhodes gold, or the Braithwaite gold, was actually being used for a really good cause, and it seems like we know where a lot of it went. Now, the only thing we really don't know about is where the gold went to. It went to a group, but whereabout? Could that potentially explain why some of the gold was ultimately found in New Austin? Because again, that's where John Marston found it, just north of the Armadillo, which would basically be like South Texas. So if it was going to South America, maybe some of it could have been lost in Texas. That seems like a long route to get to South America, but maybe that's how Rockstar could explain it. But what's weird is even the two modern Gray and Braithwaite family members that we interact with the most, Penelope and Beau, they seem to have no idea about the gold or think it's not real. Take a listen to these conversations right here.
My cousins are my primary concern right now. If everyone knows about Penelope and me...
Everyone knows about Penelope and you. I know about Penelope and you, and I've been here all of 10 minutes. Sooner it's out, sooner it's resolved.
The sooner it's dealt with, you mean? We're dealt with. Our families, the Grays and the Braithwaites, we bury our secrets, and we bury them deep.
Your secrets and your treasure.
You know, Catherine Braithwaite's got a daughter. No one's seen her in years. She weren't right, you know, and Penelope said...
I ain't heard about daughters. I heard about gold.
Well, Yankee gold? I fear that's just a story, Mr. Morgan. And I don't know. Why have we stopped?
It's best you go on alone from here.
Mr. Arthur, I didn't know you could drive a train.
Neither did I. But if I'm honest, it was kind of fun. And I didn't kill any of us. Well, I killed some of your relatives, but they would have killed all of us.
You are a gentleman, sir.
Oh, no, I ain't.
Yes, you are. Here, I ain't got much money, but these sapphires are worth a lot of money. Old family heirloom.
That Braithwaite treasure. Thank you. Now, let's get you off to Boston before any more of your relatives show up.
That might be wise.
Hey, you there?
Yeah?
This couple is heading up north to the Boston line. They got money, they'll pay you on arrival. That work for you?
Yeah, sounds fine. Get on in.
Hey, you carry protection on a journey like this?
I wouldn't be much of a stage driver if I didn't. Goes everywhere I do. Hey!
Miss Braithwaite is gonna hold on to this until arrival. On account of the treasure on your person.
I don't know how to thank you.
You're a fine man, sir.
Just get out of here. I'll leave. Yeah!
So according to Bo, the gold doesn't exist, it isn't a thing, and according to Penelope in that final mission you do with her, the treasure was all along just the jewels that she had stolen. And that was it, she was just fleeing Boston with them. So I don't know if this finding in Red Dead Redemption makes this any more clear. Although remember, this would certainly not be the first time in Red Dead Redemption 1 that Rockstar mentioned the Braithwaites and the Greys. So maybe they had a plan for this secret treasure all along and they were waiting for Red Dead Redemption 2 to sort of fill in the backstory. And maybe that's how John Marston ended up finding it, what is it, like 12 or 13 years later in New Austin. So I think this saga is pretty interesting. I'd, of course, love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about the story of the Rhodes Gold, the Braithwaite Treasure. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new. You want to stay up to date on all the latest GTA and Red Dead Redemption videos that I'm doing here on my channel. And be sure to ring that notification bell as well. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't work, and if you ring that bell, you'll always be guaranteed to be notified when new videos arrive. But of course, as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.